Hey everyone, this is Paul Trin, and I am super excited to share with you today some new features of Row64 1.3, launched today on May 4th, and let's get to it. Some cool new features of Row64 really sits inside of the data frame recipes here. I'm really particularly super excited about the group by time recipes that are sitting inside of here. We'll talk a little bit more about these workflows, but just as an example of the data that I'm working with here right now, I created a dummy set of transaction data with dates, customer IDs, maybe the category of item that they purchased on here, as well as the invoice amount for these specific items. So I'll just kind of give you a synopsis real quick of what the data looks like. There's about 75,000 rows, pretty modest in size. You could obviously, when working with Row64, you could obviously work with millions and millions of rows. So this is not limited to this data set at all. Okay. What I wanted to do is highlight group by time series data science recipes. And then very commonly inside of financial analyst roles or accounting roles, you have to summarize data on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, or even on an annual basis. And that just requires sometimes a lot of formula setup. And it's not difficult, it's just time consuming. So what we're trying to do here at Row64 is, because we're trying to break all these speed records, we also want to have really easy to use tools that help people in their common everyday tasks. So one of these is these group by time functions. As you saw earlier, I dragged and dropped. Let me close this up. I'll redo that so you guys can see it. I dragged and dropped Row64, this data set into Row64. Let me pop it over real quick. Here we go. There it is. Empty data frame. I'm going to drop this in, drop it in. Super fast load time. We got about 76,000 rows again. Okay. And what the goal was always to analyze and look at how much each customer on a monthly basis. I want to know how often people are buying from me, right? I want to know what my monthly sales are. So there's a lot of common reports that can do this, but let's just say you were ingesting something from SQL that had a million rows. It might take a little bit of time, and it's a task that Excel couldn't really handle. So what I always do is, after I always ingest my files or my data sets, I always try to create an original data set so that I don't mess with the original data. I preserve that in history. And then I work on something like the data frame 2 here to make sure that I don't damage my original data set. So just FYI, I know the documentation of the word get here. This is a data frame formula that, when pointed to now another data frame, it pulls that information into this data frame. So you can see once I put in get, I'll put on my Python code here. You can see basically it's just pulling this data frame into this one. Okay. And now let's start highlighting some of these cool group by time series. Okay. I'm going to run an example for you guys first, and then we'll apply it to this data frame. But let's just say example, we run one and it pops open a new data frame. What's going on here? What's going on here is, when you look specifically at the input, we had a similar data set. It looks like GPU data set that has invoice numbers or transaction numbers, something that we want to sum, a categorization that we wanted to categorize or group by, and dates. And you can see on the output tab up here that the output that we're receiving, let me max this screen up real quick, is that once you max it out, it generates kind of like landscape. The month, February. In February we had 16,000 sales. In March we had 7,000 sales, and so on and so forth. So the syntax is pretty easy. If you go to input, you can kind of see here A is asking for the date, and C is asking for what you want to sum up. We're going to apply this exact same recipe right here, monthly sum, to our data frame 2 here. So I'll just go ahead and type the monthly sum, right? And I know this. The first thing I want to point to now is the date, and then I followed up by the invoice. So if I do that, I hit play, you can see here that all the Python code is actually updating when you move this around. Take a look at this. It kind of just auto updates. It's just really powerful and really easy to use. All right, so let's go ahead and hit run. You can see here now, look at this. On a month-to-month basis, we have now the monthly totals. Let's move on to another recipe that I particularly love. It's the group by, when you start taking these things and you start grouping them. So let's say, for example, I wanted to do something, group in sum by month, right? Similar syntax, but the difference here is that now let's go into the input tab. Let's get rid of this. This example is going to ask specifically for A, which is again the date upon how you want things categorized, right, on a monthly basis. B will be your target. So you could actually flip this. You could either do an item categorization perhaps, or customers. I said earlier that I wanted it on the customers, and C will end up being shifted over to where I want to actually the mathematics, the formulas to perform on. So let's go ahead and click run on this and take a look at what the output is. Recall earlier that the output was in landscape. When you do this, it actually puts it out like a timeline. And you can see here it's monthly, right? Pretty powerful. As you see here, look what's happening to the code up here. That's not what we really want it to do. We want it to sit on input. We want to keep it here. But it's already given me the output, so it's fine. Pretty neat, pretty strong. You can see it goes all the way out to third quarter of 2020, or goes up to September, I think it is, of, let's see, September of 2022. And I'm going to put this back. Pretty great. What's even more powerful is when you want to do this on a quarterly basis. I know after doing this earlier, that quarterly automatically updates the Python. It's just absolutely so easy to work with. You see when I hit play again, now it's summing up everything on a quarterly basis. Pretty powerful. Previously, this type of setup would take so long inside of Excel. You'd have to set parameters on like in between this and in between that, the date columns. Here it's just doing it for you. It's doing the exact same concepts, but it's doing immediately inside the data frame, and you can do it at a scale that's completely unheard of. I'm super excited about these tools. So if you get a chance, check out the recipes, check out the transform, spend some time in the group by time recipes, and you'll find that you'll be able to accelerate your workflow and hopefully save time and energy on more productive things. Thanks so much. And don't forget to sign up at row64.com for our forums and let us know what data science recipes you would like added.